Hello everybody, my name is Average Election Enjoyer here on September 24th of 2025, and I just want to go over the special elections that we saw yesterday, Tuesday, September 23rd. And there were two special elections that I'll be going over in today's video. We have an Arizona congressional special election for Arizona District 7, as well as the Georgia Senate District 21 runoff that, if you remember, one of my first videos I covered the primary to this election that resulted in a runoff that ended up the actual election was yesterday. So today I want to go over first Arizona District 7, Representative Raul Grijalva. Sorry if I butchered the name. Died in March at age 77. He was serving his 12th term in Congress. The border is, or this, this congressional district runs along the border with Mexico. Democratic area includes parts of Phoenix, Tucson, and Yuma. So big blue vote sinks in those cities. Very blue area. And as we can see, Adelita Grijvala, again, apologize for butchering the name, won quite a positive victory here, 68% of the vote. Daniel Gutierrez, Republican, only under 30% of the vote here, with a Green Party candidate gaining 1.1% of the vote and another candidate gaining 0.6% of the vote. Total of almost 90,000 people voting in this election. As we can see here on Ballotopedia, my favorite site when it comes to looking at past elections, you can see there's a whole host of other candidates that were right in. How you can see the Green Party and the No Labels Party. This is not as updated as these live results. As you can see, a lot more votes in this one than on Ballotopedia, but the past elections are going to be accurate. So we can look at that, see sort of trends that we're seeing in this district. So just remember, it's not 70. It's about 69 to 30 here in this election. We can see primary Adelita, very successful, gaining 61% of the vote. Again, another similar, so they had similarly dominant performances in each of their primary. Daniel Gutierrez win the Republican nomination. However, you could see just in the difference of the primaries that this was a race that Republicans were not going to be able to win. 62,000 votes cast in the primary versus just 18,000 votes cast in the primary for the Republicans. So huge disadvantage in that election. 2024, late Raul Grijalva, rest in peace. You can see he won in 2024, so good year for the Republicans. 63.4% of the vote to 36.6% of the vote. So still pretty resounding victory for Democrats, showing the safety that this seat is. You can see, if we, let me go back to here. 63% of the vote, 68. You could see about 5%, 5-point overperformance from Adelita over Raul. This is because, again, shaping up to be a pretty blue 2025-2026. Again, no idea how many points that's going to be, but it's looking like Democrats are likely going to win the popular vote for the House, and that could have, and the question is just how many points they're going to win by. And that's what I am breaking these down mostly for. As you can see in these special elections, you can see trends. Democrats, what they tended to do, they've been doing pretty good in special elections, and that's had a pretty good showing for them in the midterms when they've done well in these special elections. And it used to be Republicans who used to do that. So you can see 2024, it was a solid victory, 27 points, and then back down to 2022. So this is a more correlating year, because this is a midterm. We got midterms coming up. As you can see, the vote count dropped significantly. We got 271,000 votes down to 195,000 votes. But the real drop you can see is in this special election, where it's all the way down only to 81,000 votes in this yes, in this election, 89,000 votes. Sorry, because this is still not fully updated. So almost 90,000 votes versus 170 and 270,000 votes. So you can see a big difference. 2022, similar margins to 2024, and then 2025 being a even better margin for the Democrats. That's a somewhat of a good sign. We can see last time there was a blue wave year, which would be 2018. If I can find that here. Yes, here in 2018 it was uncontested by the Republican Party. It sees that both Republican candidates withdrawn, so not anything real substantive here. He only got 113,000 votes versus in 2022 there being significantly more votes cast, 195,000 votes. And something interesting that I did in fact notice from this recent election is just so when there's these special elections, there's always a lack of turnout, and as you can see, Democrats only getting 57,000 votes versus in 2024 they got 171,000 votes. So they got less than a third of the total vote count that they had, versus Republicans only getting 22,000 votes versus their 99,000 votes. I apologize. So really a dramatic loss in turnout. So less than a fourth of what they got in 2024 versus Democrats decreasing by about a third. So you can see a big turnout advantage for Democrats here from 2024. Same thing for 2022. If you look at the total votes that Republicans got here, 70,000 to 90 to almost 100,000. So that's a 30% loss versus 126,000 to 171,000. So we can see Democrats in these midterms, in these special elections. That's the main takeaway that I want you guys to get after these special elections. The main takeaway is you can't look at these percentages because special elections these days tend to be more Democrat skewed just because of the nature of Democrats winning over college voters in vast droves. College voters tend to be high propensity voters. So the main takeaway is not in the margins, though they can be nice to look at if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican. It should still be a warning sign. You shouldn't be celebrating these margins, like to be down even more, to be down by this many points in that kind of district is not anything to be happy about as a Republican. But if you can look at these turnout margins, it should be, if you're a Republican right now, red alarm should be sounding. You need to be getting out to vote, because if you don't, you're going to lose in 2026. It's going to be a very bad year for Republicans if they cannot get out the voters, and they have not been able to so far, and that is a fact. So next to that, we got the next race that I'm going to go over, the second and final special election that was yesterday, Georgia Senate District 21, the runoff that took place earlier this year. Georgia State Senate 21 runoff. Jason Dickerson for the Grand Old Party winning 61.5% to Deborah Shingley 38.5%. This is something I brought up earlier, that I didn't expect Deborah Shingley to get over 40 points in this final runoff, because I expected that some Republicans might come home after voting, and I said that a lot of the Republicans who voted not for Jason Dickerson would come home to their party. However, if we go on to Ballotpedia, we can look at some of these past elections. We can see this is a huge overperformance for the Democrats here. This is way more impressive to me than in Arizona 7th. Georgia is a state a lot of people have been talking about as, if you remember last year, Trump did not win it by as many as some of the other swing states. 2020, Biden actually won it. It's been a left trending state for a decent while, and it did not break back right like most of the other states did in this past election. So as you can see, this is the map of this state district. It's outside of Atlanta, and then it It's not inside Atlanta at all. It's outside of it. Somewhat rural. Been voting for Republicans for a decent while, as you can see in 2020. That's the past races we can look at: 2020, 2022, and 2024. So 2020, as you can see, this election, Brandon Beach used to be the state senator, was actually uncontested. The Democrats did not contest this race in 2018, even though it was contested, but the district actually shifted, so we can't really look at a lot of this. But 2020, uncontested by the Democrats. 2022, uncontested by the Democrats as well. So Democrats didn't even think they had a chance here in these. They didn't even bother putting in a candidate for these two races. So here, 2024, you can see Brandon Beach 70.3 to 29.7. Democrats couldn't even capture 30% of the vote, and this was in a very, not a super red year, but a year where Trump was able to sweep all the swing states. So it was a decisive victory. It was not a demolishing, it was not a tsunami, but it was definitely a definitive victory for the Republicans. And as you can see, 30 to 29.7, Democrats couldn't even crack 30% in this election. As you can see here, this was the general election. I called it a primary earlier. I apologize. This was not a primary. This was a special election. However, it was unlikely for any candidates to get to 50%. So a lot of people, you could think about it as almost a primary to see who the top two candidates were. Nobody expected this to be decided in the first round. You can see that Deborah Shingley got 39.5, and then Jason Dickerson only 17. But again, the vote is split among all of these candidates. So again, 2024, 70.3%, 81,000 votes for the Republicans versus 34,000 votes for the Democrats, at only 30%. However, we go up here and 19,000 votes for the Republicans, 11,000 for the Democrats. 30.5% of the vote to 61.5. So remember, 2020, uncompetitive, uncontested. 2022, uncompetitive, uncontested. 2024, 40-point margin. And finally, we land here in 2025, where it is barely above 20-point margin. This race has gotten significantly closer from uncontested to 40-point margin all the way to barely above 20 points. This is a very, very interesting result. And again, the point I want to make about the election turnout, 20,000, we'll estimate 20,000, and we'll estimate 12,000 for the Democrat, 20,000 for Jason Dickerson, Republican, Deborah Shingley, 12,000. We go to 2024 again. So 2024 is the last year we can actually do, because actually we can look at the turnout for 2022. Turnout was affected because it was uncompetitive, but people still were voting in the midterms. So 73,000 voters for the Republican. We go to 2024, 81,000 votes for the Republican, 34,000 for the Democrat. And that amount of votes just collapses. To go from 80,000 to 20,000, less than 20,000, is less than a quarter of the voters were turning out for the Republicans, versus the Democrats, a little bit less than a third. So about the same margins as last time. And that is huge. That is a huge shift in Democrats. Even though Democrats still not having amazing turnout, Republican turnout is collapsing in these special elections. And we just have yet to be seen if it's going to continue, because if a collapse like this in Republican turnout happens in the 2026 midterms, there's going to be some crazy elections and some crazy upsets that we might see. We might see Democrats flip some seats that we did not think was possible, because Republicans are not turning out. They're not turning out in the midterms, they're not turning out in the special elections, and that is hurting their candidates. They have lost several state Senate and state House and Assembly elections in multiple states because they have a problem with voter turnout. And that is exactly what we are seeing in these September 2023 special elections. We see the turnout of Republicans is not great. and by not great I mean very poor. So if Republicans want to have a chance at keeping the House in 2026, they're going to win the Senate, but if they want to keep the House in 2026, they're going to need to do something about their turnout. So that is the takeaway I want you guys to have from these special elections. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your days.